All right, we are live. Hey, Jennifer, how do you like our new overlay?
I love it. We have branding.
We're official. It took me a long time yesterday. Michelle and I were back and forth about it last.
So it's this thing up here, right?
Yep, the corner. And I can change this down in the bottom. I was playing with it and was like, woo.
Yeah, no, that looks great.
We can do. So I can spiff it up and beef it up, and there we go. Oh, I'm gonna have a bark, so she'll settle down.
That's why you want headphones. That's why
I know. I'm gonna get those. Yep. So I will have those next time. All right. So we are live tonight. Welcome to the Groomers Cut. We are the Pet Pro Educators, Tara Forleo, Michelle Knowles, Jennifer Bishop Jenkins. We've had a very busy week since our polls have gone live, and there has been a lot of talk. There has been a lot of conversations. There's been some feelings and emotions.
Feelings.
Yes, feelings. And we understand, and we want to talk about all of that tonight. So we have a half hour dedicated to this. And we were supposed to have a guest tonight, but she did not have good service and was not able to connect. So we'll get, we do want to have a couple times of having guests on to express their feelings as well.
Especially people who are regulars in our group.
Yeah. So for everybody new watching, please make sure on the link that you have clicked on, go to the Streamline and grant them permission so that we can see your name in the feed. Otherwise, on our end as hosts and hostesses for your evening, we don't get to see your lovely faces. We don't get to know who is commenting. So we'd love to know so that we can respond to you by name.
So I just got off the phone with Sonda, who is in our audience tonight, and she is just amazing. I love you already, Sonda.
I heard. I'm looking forward to talking to you myself. So, all right, Michelle. Why don't? Yes. Hi, Donna. Donna, a couple glasses of wine. That's great.
I'm not sad for you at all.
No, thank you for being real. Here, I will drink to that.
Yeah.
In my water.
What I have in here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have my life water if it's healthy. Yeah. I'm dieting. I can't do the wine. I miss it.
Oh, yeah. I'll have a glass for you later. All right. So, do you want to take it away, Michelle? Where do we want to start tonight?
Yeah, I would like to, number one, I would like to keep our poll open for another week or so because I want as many participants as possible. Please share that poll to nominate people for our panel that we're working on.
And so that people don't know, in case they're watching this recording, you go to Facebook, the Pet Pro Educators, in that group. And it's been shared to other groups, but that's the poll that Michelle proposed last week about the council. So just make sure everybody knows where to find it.
Mm-hmm. We would like to know who you would like to vote on to the board. Whoever's watching this, who's ever watching this in the future, share it to as many groomers as you can so they have a chance to have their input and be heard with their voices. I noticed in number 2, I noticed it seems to be a fracture, our first fracture of ideas that we need to work through.
Well, first, can you start from scratch, Michelle, and tell them about your vision of a council?
Oh, okay, fair enough. Because, I've not said it that many times, right? My vision is, and I know a lot of people do share our vision, especially now that we've taken these polls. So a lot of people do feel this way. We wanted to take a poll, number 1, yes or no, if you would be interested in seeing a poll of certified master groomers that we nominate and elect in on a board or a panel or a council of some sort to hash out all the standards of care in our industry, like yes or no to anal glands, yes or no to shaving double-coated dogs, things of that nature, to set all those standards, put them in a protocol book, and have them as a standard of our industry. So that was my main idea.
And especially, I really like the way you articulated it last week, Michelle. The idea that you would have some of the leaders in the industry who have gone through some credentialing, some testing of their knowledge and expertise, so that this is not just people that that have groomed a long time or that are interested in being on the council, but people who've actually submitted themselves to some credentialing in our industry of some sort. And also that their job is going to be to examine science, and not just debate a view on anal glands or debate a view on shaving double coats, but actually look at the science, look at the facts, look at the research, and let them be the council that would vet the science and maybe disseminate it, digest it, interpret it, and test it for our industry. And so, especially on controversial issues, wouldn't it be amazing to have this?
Mm-hmm. It would be a consensus based on scientific research that we would use to then debate the issue, decide what is safe, what will keep us the most safe from liability, and be better and healthier for the pets. So, I mean, this is something that's been coming for a long time. We had discussed that it be mirrored or formed after other different councils, like the legal board. Attorneys go to their board.
The Bar Association, right?
The Bar Association, the medical board.
Yeah,
the veterinary board is made up of CVTs and veterinarians. And when veterinarians are questioned or a standard is in question, then they go to their board made up of their peers to decide whether or not they've deviated from the standard of care. So that is something that our industry lacks. We just don't have anything like that. Now, we do have an organization that's gone over sanitation, safety, and
protocols.
And protocols, but just that. It's just very
basic care and sanitation.
Basic care and sanitation. Yeah,
and that's PPGSA, and they did a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
But they don't sort of anything to do with actually grooming. It's all just in the care of the animal.
Correct. So I mean, we would probably not talk about anything having to do with that, because I feel that those guidelines are very necessary and really solid. I think they did a really nice job of assembling those things. But I think there's more work to be done. I think that the animal handling is huge. There are no standards for that, for grooming. Whether or not to shave, when to shave, when not to shave, what dogs to shave has not been set. We're all over the place. Everybody's just doing it for their own reasons and for whatever reason they want. So, I mean, all these things have to be looked at. There are some things that really don't matter. They're a matter of style. No one is going to hurt your style or try to take away the style of how you do your grooming. But basic healthcare, animal handling, having to do with the health of the skin and having to do with the health of the psyche of the animal in question, are all of those things need to be hashed out, need to be examined in the light and talked about.
Very good. And so last week, if you all didn't catch the broadcast last week, Michelle then created and posted a poll, and it's open to everybody to chime in and make nominations. But this is about who would you want to see on a national council of experts that would vet this science-based information towards the end of setting standards in grooming, especially on some of our more difficult and more controversial issues. Right.
So that leads into a lot of the conversations that went down throughout that whole feed as this was being said and played out. There was a lot of questions. Why do we have to have, and I think, I don't know if Lacey's watching, but Lacey was saying, there are a lot of the same names being thrown around, and why is it just the certified master groomers? So we kind of wanted to touch on that again as to, we just talked about that, Michelle. I'll let you go with that one because you had.
So there seems to be a lot of dissension over the fact that we asked you to nominate certified master groomers, and you can nominate whoever you want, but our idea is Yes, you may have groomed for 30 years and you may be a fantastic groomer and your animal handling skills are perfect and you've apprenticed and done all those things. But how does our industry as a whole know that? Unless you've pursued some kind of a peer review or some kind of a certification program in which your skills have been tested by your peers. Mm-hmm. And that's what the bar is. That's what the bar exam is. That's what a medical exam is. They're testing your skills of the knowledge of your industry before they release you into the world. So we do believe in education here. We do believe in continuing education. We are looking for people who are committed to helping with these standards. And I would like to see somebody. It doesn't even necessarily have to be an all the way certified master groomer, although that would be ideal because it's somebody who's been in the industry for a long enough time. They've put enough commitment and effort, and believe me, I know how hard it is to get dogs and travel and do all that, get all your practicals and writtens together.
Although you can get your CMGs done through Zoom now with IPG's got at least is offering it via Zoom. Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, it's easier than ever to do that. But in order to form a council that is responsible for hashing out the details of protocol, I would like to see people in there that have committed to their education, certified in something somehow. You have to be peer reviewed. And this includes female master groomers, feline master groomers, yeah. I should say, and male too. Yeah.
Men and women, dogs and cats.
Yes. So, but we would like to see people who are pursuing their education because licensing and certification go hand in hand. So a lot of people think that you're just gonna, it may in some states, depending on what your state does with their licensing program. But I would like to establish that we are a real industry and we deserve real schools with real information and real knowledge, so that when we graduate as apprentice or junior groomers, that we go out into the world and we can do basic breed trims. We know how to handle our shears. We know how to handle the dogs. We know how to sanitize. We know all these things. That should be a standard for every single groomer. There's no reason not to at this point in time. So those are the things that we're looking for to be on the council, because if you have enough experience and you've pursued your education and you care about standards in your industry, not just your salon, but your fellow groomer as well, those are the traits that are going to carry you through to this council and be knowledgeable enough to discuss these issues as your own profession. You have experience in your own salon, experience in your own veterinary hospital, experience doing what you do in a mobile van with cats, with dogs, with whatever. You have to have some type of proof. You have to have receipts about your experience, your knowledge, what you bring to the table. Otherwise, it could just be anybody. It could be the backyard groomers, that everybody seems to want to shame and laugh about. So anybody can just be anything. It can't be that way. We have to tighten up a little bit, pursue our education,
and
be reviewed by our peers. Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to repeat what we said last week, which is that, I'm not sure that, groomers maybe necessarily know this, but you really made an important point. You briefly mentioned it again tonight, which is if you look at other industries and other professions, whether it be plumbers and electricians, roofers, or whether it be lawyers, accountants, doctors, hairstylists, they all have to submit to licensing and then testing done. Like, they can go to a school, they can get a degree in accounting, but until they sit for that CPA exam run by other CPAs, they're not a certified public accountant. And same thing with the bar exam. You can get a law degree, but if you don't sit for your bar exam and get tested by the other lawyers and meet that credential. So know that it is a common thing throughout the world of professions that each profession, and in this sense, grooming is actually way behind the times, like way behind the times. We are so not even in the ballpark because we don't do this. We don't have a national standard, state standards that are consistent, that are tested, where people have to go before the best of their peers and show that they have these skills and these qualifications. And I think what we do is more important because we're working on live animals. This is not, we're not working on pipe fitting here. We're working on live animals, and it is so important. So I think, boy, is this an idea whose time has come. And by the way, we are getting some good feedback from our attendees tonight.
Angie's made a great post there.
So Angie is saying that, she sees all the time people opening grooming shops with no experience. And they're asking questions about, which skip tooth blade should I use to shave a double coat and things like that show that they haven't really, studied it all. And we also have Donna, who was suggesting a protocol booklet, which would really be a nice thing to have.
I think Chris said something about that?
I think, Catherine, yes. Who said that? Donna. Donna.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
Donna said that. We have been discussing that. It is that is in the future, but it's definitely on my page of notes. They said they want a gold-bound book to put it in and to carry around and have. That's our aim to get to that point. But before we can get to that point, we have to really find out what structure works for our industry. I would like to umbrella as many groomers as possible. We are so unique in our industry, each of us individually, that I know it's going to be really difficult to just jostle us around a little bit and find that sweet spot where we can serve the majority of groomers. There's always going to be ones that have unique situations, unique this, unique that. Their area is different. Their demographic is unique. So, we're going to make exceptions for as many people as we can. We want everybody on board. We want this to serve everyone, not just a few.
But remembering that grooming is both art and science, we want to focus this on what is knowable and leave the art to you, the artists. It's not going to be about instructing your art. It's going to be instructing all of us in our collective scientific, the need that we have for basic facts. This is the part that I think that is disturbing to so many people is really that there is zero requirement. There's not even the most basic requirement like, what's the difference between claws and nails in a dog and a cat? Basic stuff that there's no knowledge of. Yeah.
Cindy asked about bringing the tools we use into this conversation as well.
Absolutely. We are going to try and hit as many topics as we can for this protocol because I want it to be complete. I'd like it to be as complete and standalone as possible, that anybody could step in and read these standards and say, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. And not only do I want the standard to be set after a good, solid, healthy debate based on science, but after we come together with that protocol, I would like to write them up in a book and write down the different circumstances so that anything that you come into contact with or anything that happens, you can turn that to that page of that book and say, okay, the protocols are this. This is the standard. This is what is expected on a basic level. So no one's going to write down in a book that you are no longer allowed to put a certain type of blade on a schnauzer. No one wants that. That's separate.
Yeah. Now, Terry is asking a really interesting question. Would this eliminate the option of someone learning hands-on under a certified groomer and not going through a school? Absolutely not. This is not about eliminating schools or putting everybody on the same page with what they're doing or how they get into the industry. This is to help answer the questions that you or any groomer going through that learning process might have. Gee, I've taught dozens and dozens and dozens of people how to groom. And a lot of, I would say 95% of them have asked me at some point or other, Jennifer, you've told me blah, 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 but then I go to this workshop and she says so-and-so, and then he says this. I don't know who to believe, and I always answer there's the art and science part. If they're talking about art, that can be different. You can learn this person's style or that person's style,
right?
And then develop your own style. But if it's about something like, where do you cut the toenail in order to be optimal for the health of the animal, there's a scientific, factual answer to that has to do with longitudinal studies that were done about the orthopedic health of dogs walking up on their nails instead of on the pads of their feet. And we know that if you can't, keep the air on that quick at the beginning of that quick, then you're gonna have a quick that's going to get longer, and then the nail's gonna. I mean, there's a science to it. It's measurable. You can talk about orthopedic studies. You can talk about how dogs walk on their feet in a way that's factual. And so I think that's the point that we're trying to get to, is we're not trying to change the whole industry or how people learn it. It's just to help answer those basic
questions that we don't agree on yet because no standards are there.
Yeah.
I'd like to answer this question. Why don't we just write a book and call it a day? Because I can write a book. Jennifer can write a book. Dara can write a book. But unless we three agree on what it is that we'd like to teach, there will be no standards. It will simply be Michelle's book, Jennifer's book, and Dara's book. This is an attempt, and we will see this to the end. This is an attempt to bring us together as an industry and care about our standards.
Yeah.
If we look at a photo and one was posted, we won't go into that whole thing because that's a whole separate issue and talk for a different day. But we all share posts, and oh my God, and there's even a Facebook page that says roast my groom. Oh my God, can you believe the client asked for that? Good, let me have it because it's hilarious. All of us have freaky grooms in our past. All of us started somehow. I myself, admittedly, to anyone who wants to ask, and some people who don't want to know this, I carved a hard line around my very first cocker the first time I did it. And I did it with pride because that's what I was taught. No one told me the standards. I had to learn them on my own through trial and error. So we all have those. So all groomers have standards, but they're not the same standards.
Yeah.
So I would like us to be closer together.
And it's about looking at other industries, looking at other professions, and seeing what they have done in order to elevate the status of their profession and create a better quality of representative under their industry. Right now, the grooming industry suffers from, you've heard the old expression that your chain is only as strong as your weakest link. We are underpaid as a profession, and we work damn hard. Oh, my aching back. Do we work damn hard? We work very hard for still what I would consider, a depressed wage.
Yeah.
And we are working extremely hard. And by the way, at a very high level of skill. This isn't just hard work like, cleaning a house is hard work or yard work is hard work. This is hard work with skill attached to it.
Yes.
And yet we are still not paid as the profession that we need to be. And we have to look at other professions. And one of the things that I first put out with my 15 coat types is this whole idea that we need to have some common understanding of what these coats are that are in front of us. We need to start using the same words so that everybody's book doesn't say something different, so that everybody knows when I say a flat-coated retriever what I'm talking about. We actually desperately need this in our industry. And I just, of course, I came to know Michelle when I first took her classes years ago, and I just worship the ground she walks on. I knew that there's no better person in our industry to suggest that this is what we need, because everybody loves and respects, where Michelle's heart is coming from on this. And we all know this is true. There's really literally nobody that doesn't understand the need for this. It's just how are we going to get there that can get a little messy. And to that end, I think we should talk about some of the comments and feelings that came up with the poll that you posted. Mm-hmm. Do you want to say something about that, Michelle, or you want me to dive in?
I do. There were several feelings that I received on all of the posts, all of the nominations. People are very afraid of change. It affects our money. It affects the way that we pay our mortgage, the way we feed our children, the way we take care of ourselves and our loved ones. So I understand this is a very scary time to be talking about, oh my God, they're changing my industry. I've already got coronavirus to worry about. I've already got this and that and the other out there to worry about. It's already a scary world. Standards help protect us as groomers, because if there's a standard and we follow it, we're not liable, for one thing. That's a big, huge reason.
Yeah.
But there are people that are afraid that they're not going to be allowed to work. We're not stopping anybody from working. We want you to participate and tell us what your standards are. I want to know what your standards are, and your standards are, and your standards are. And let's talk about that and see if we can't find common ground on a scientific level and find a reason for that. Others are upset about, well, why just CMGs? And I think we talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yep.
Because they show a commitment to their craft. They've been peer reviewed. So other people also agree that they know how to groom. So you could be a fantastic exhibition groomer, but that exhibition shows other people that you can groom. So you have to have some kind of certification, receipt, or something of value to show others, hey, I belong on this council because I have X amount of experience, I have this certification, I am pursuing my degree as far as we can, our master's. So, I mean, all those things are important. And then there are other people who just don't want to participate at all, don't want to have anything to do with it. And I understand that feeling because it's just, change is scary. Change is scary and growth is painful. And I don't know what the future looks like. I at least am familiar with now. I am not familiar with the future. But this is going to happen, and it would be a shame for it to happen. And for you, those of you out there who don't want this to happen at all, it would be a shame for this to happen without you. And I think your participation is so valuable that I want as many people's input as possible into these standards. It's important. It does affect you, and it will be taking place. I would rather do it with than without you.
One of the other things that I thought was an interesting comment below the poll about a concern one person had is that they were tired of seeing the same old names. And there's a good list of, what is there, 30, 40
At
names?
least.
I think it's up to 50.
The people have nominated. People have nominated
It's a
from
great
all
list.
over. And it is a very, very good list. But there are some people on it that, for example, I put on somebody. Let me just give an example. I'm going to pick on Lisa Herbold, who is on my Illinois Professional Pet Groomer. I'm the president, co-president and founder of the Illinois Professional Pet Groomers Association. And Lisa Herbold is on our board. She worked in the veterinary field for a very, very long time and is also an outstanding groomer. Somebody like that has this other expertise to bring to it, so there are people with college degrees in veterinary that then went into grooming as well. There might be some other kind of a credential or something that would make them of interest to this council. Maybe they're not well known, and if we vote only on the basis of who does the most speaking at the most conferences, that might not be the best criteria. So I think that was a very legitimate, and an emotional response to, I'm tired of seeing the same old names, but there is a need to bring expertise to a council like this as well.
Mm-hmm. But I do know that there are really good, experienced groomers who may even be certified, who have not even seen this list or no one knows to nominate them for this list.
Absolutely.
That have a wealth of knowledge of their experience in grooming. My friend Duann Chambers is one of them. She's been in the game for a really long time. She made a fantastic, and I always tell people, some of the information may be a little outdated in your area, but for overall, her emergency book and Poop Happens, and it tells you how to act when something happens in your salon, a death, a weird client, a scrape, handling vet issues. I mean, she has really thoughtfully put forward in her heart all of her experience of her profession, of her life. So, I mean, there are those out there that may be willing to participate, that may be willing to commit the time and the energy it takes to debate these things. I'm just a nutcase, and I like talking about it, and I can't shut up about it. So, I need people that are going to talk back, not just say, yeah, okay, yeah, that's good. I need somebody who can at least play devil's advocate, tell me all the good, tell me all the bad. Why shouldn't we do something? Why should we do something? All those things have to be talked about. And you need enough knowledge, experience, and peer acceptance to be able to sit on this council properly.
Yeah. So this is an exciting time in our industry. And I think that the historic nature of the pandemic and the sort of the abrupt interruption to our businesses, but that's also allowed, I think, people, our clients to appreciate us more, the need for us more. And I think that now that we are moving to some much more education, that's much more accessible, more online programs. Berkeley's about to have World Groom 3 because of all the shutdown of the regular conferences. It didn't stop them from continuing the education.
Right.
And it is so inspiring to see all of the wonderful educators doing online seminars now and making that education accessible to so many more people. It's an exciting time to be a groomer. I remember when I first got started, and I was a teacher for 30 years, but I remember those early times of being a groomer in the 80s and the 90s where there was nobody to talk to about anything. And it was really lonely. It was a lonely place, a lonely field to be in. So I know that there will be grappling for position. I know that the people who worked on the PPGSA standards of safety, care, and sanitation that came out about 5 years ago, in response to those state licensing efforts in California and New Jersey, they wanted to write something for legislators. They wrote a very much like because I've worked in lobbying in other fields and victims' rights and so on. And I can tell you that what you need to be able to have as an industry is something to hand to a legislator who's about to vote on something that's going to affect your life and your business. You want to hand them something that is very clearly researched, very clearly articulated, and that is, very well grounded in science. And this is something that we absolutely have to do it. We don't have a choice as an industry. We will either continue to wallow in the mire, or we will become, comparable at the very least to human cosmetology field. At the very least, we could be comparable to that, where most states require 1,600 hours of schooling and state board testing and. So, we're just not there as an industry, and people that oppose licensing legislation in their state, you shouldn't oppose licensing legislation. You should just get in and make sure that the licensing that they're going to try to do for those several states where it is happening right now, there are discussions happening in New Jersey, in California, in Rhode Island. There's quite a few in the Northeast, and once it pockets on the coasts, it's going to spread inward. There's going to be eventually licensing of groomers everywhere, eventually. And either you get in there and you shape it by showing leadership from within your own field, or you, as the profession that you are, help to define that for people who don't know your industry as well. I don't expect the senators and state representatives to know my industry as well as I do, but if I don't put it into succinctly well-grounded standards that are documented as to their source and their science, then they're going to regulate me without that.
Yeah, like with animal control or veterinarians or PETA. I mean, think about that. None of those groups know anything about what we do for a living. None of them.
Yeah.
None of them.
Terry said the worst thing that would be to have uneducated people governing our profession. We need to take control of our own. When Terry DiMarino first, if I may cite her with awe and reverence, when Terry DiMarino and the other amazing women in California, like Judy and Susan and all of them, worked to respond to a really bad piece of legislation that came out like 10 years ago to try to regulate and license groomers in California because of the death of, I think it was a Yorkie, a state senator's wife or something, that prompted this, what do you mean there are groomers that are grooming my dog are not licensed in the state? And then a bad bill was written without talking to any groomers. And for those of you that don't know the story of what they were responding to in those days, they were responding to a bill that was going to put dog catchers, animal control officers in charge of groomers, and no groomers in charge of groomers. There wasn't like a council that included groomers and other animal professionals. It was just like none. Right. And so what we want is to define our own industry.
Yep. We're at almost 35 minutes, ladies. That was good. Well done.
So I would like to end by saying, please try and circulate those lists as much as possible, the poll. Gather your arguments. It doesn't matter how scary they might look, or if you think you're going to offend anyone. I will not be offended. It all needs to be talked about. If you have a question or a concern, even if it's really scary, even if it's really wacky or wild or freaky, throw it in there. I want to hear it. I want to hear it all. So we can decide how to move forward, because we will be moving forward. And I love each and every one of you.
And you can find it at the Pet Pro Educators on Facebook.
I'm
Yes.
going to throw it back up there.
And Kat
There.
Samard actually said, would it be helpful if we started calling ourselves more canine cosmetologists or canine stylists? And of course, that was the great Pam Lauritsen's idea, is to be called stylists. Pet, you know, that's ISCC, the International Society of Canine Cosmetology. So canine cosmetology, or being a stylist, petstylist.com is her website. So that idea of making us comparable is a good one. Yeah.
Is a good one, but calling ourselves a cosmetologist without having the educational background behind it is not appropriate.
Exactly.
So that's a canine stylist. Absolutely. That is a fantastic, or a feline stylist. Those are fantastic words to use instead of just a basic groomer. I mean,
Right.
we deserve titles. We work, like you both said, we work hard. We work really
And you need
hard.
to know a lot to do what we do. There is a huge tome of information that we need to do. Just open the door every day. So, I mean, you know, let's get some for us. Let's get our thing together, get our standards together, get on the same page. That way, when my snowbirds come to you in New York or on the East Coast from Arizona, and they say, yeah, she told me it was a 5-comb, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that, and they know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, it should be that way across the board. We know exactly what that means, no matter where we are.
Donna says she's going to change her profile right now. Donna, what are you going to change it to? That's great. And Misty, you're welcome. Thank you very much for supporting the idea. Please, everybody, help spread the poll wider.
Yeah.
There's still room for more names. Go to the Pet Pro Educators. You can share the poll to every grooming Facebook group out there. And, you know, unfortunately, it is a Facebook poll. You do have to be on Facebook to do it, but that's the most universal way to reach the most people.
Yeah, but everyone is welcome. Overshare it. We want as many voices as we can, because this is an important issue, and I don't want to leave anybody out if I can possibly help it. I want us all to have a voice in this. I think that's the most important thing.
Donna says she's going to be a canine stylist. I love it. Good. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Dad.
Yes, so we are, there she is. So we are going to, because next week is a long holiday weekend. I have to travel all day Monday, so I will be out of pocket. So next week we will be missing our show. So we'll go.
See you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yes.
After which I will have a new hip.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, the next time we talk, I will have a new right hip.
Are you going to be a ballerina for us?
Oh, I will not show you my scars. No.
No, I didn't say show you the scars. I just said ballerina because you got a new hip. You should be able to do a lot of good stuff with that hip.
Run faster, jump higher.
Yes. We should say this. When we see each other in Dallas in November at the Pet Pro Classic, where the three of us will be together with the great Pam Lauritsen at the Pet Pro Classic in Dallas in November. Yes. Please God that it is not canceled due to the virus, but that it continues to happen in person.
Our fingers are still crossed.
We will be together wearing our logo.
Yes.
Our logo.
And Michelle, you might have to bring your picture because, you know, we will be doing our show live. Pam invited us to do the show live there. So we will be, the three of us, in one place trying to live stream. So we will have a good time with that, and we will have a booth. So not only will we have the Pet Pro Educators, we will have a booth and the Academy booth, and we're going to have a busy booth.
Yes.
So please. Going on.
So please bring your comments. I will be answering comments as much as possible for the next 2 weeks because we won't have a live view, but I will be very active on our page in the poll. So absolutely, if you think of anything whatsoever, throw it in there. Let's talk about it. Let's start talking about it. Absolutely.
Yep. All right, I'm going to end this. Good night, everybody. Have
Bye,
a
Fonda. We'll see you in
great
Dallas
4th of
too.
July. Keep all those pets safe for those that have fireworks going on over the weekend. And
Yeah, happy
we'll talk-
birthday, America,
Yes.
even without fireworks. And please don't do fireworks around dogs.
I know. Keep your pets safe, and we'll talk to you guys. And we will see you all here in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody.